Welcome to the Walters Agency Podcast, where insurance meets peace of mind. Hosted by licensed insurance agent and owner Timothy Walters, we're here to help families, homeowners, and small business owners throughout East Tennessee protect what matters most. Our mission? Creating win-win-win solutions for insurance. Let's dive in.
You might not need life insurance for you, but your loved ones will. Timothy Walter explains why life insurance is one of the most important policies you can have. Welcome back, everyone. Skip Monty, co-host / producer, back in the studio with Timothy Walters, licensed insurance agent and owner of the Walters Agency. Timothy, how's it going, man?
Man, I'm walking and talking, man. Can't beat it.
Can't beat it. There you go. There you go. Well, something that's been on my mind lately is life insurance. And, there's a lot of people that don't even know exactly what that is and the different types of life insurance. So I wanted to ask, what is life insurance exactly, and why should you have it?
Well, that's a great question. And life insurance, if I was going to define it, I would say it's security for your loved ones when you're gone. Most of us, even guys like me, like never been married, no kids, and I do have life insurance because there's still people that if I went out here and got creamed by a bus and exited this world in a spectacular fashion like that, there's people that I would like to leave something to, leave some security to. And life insurance is one of those things where I don't care how wealthy you are or how poor you think you are financially, it's something you should at least consider. You should look into. You should educate yourself about it because it can make an incredible difference in people's lives. I've seen it. I've been doing life insurance since 2012. I think I remember doing my first death claim my first year back when I was with State Farm. Helped take care of a death claim, and that was tough. But it was also good because the person who we filed the claim for, he was the primary breadwinner of his family, and his wife did not have a full-time job. She'd been a stay-at-home mom, for most of their relationship. She had no way to really enter the job force and have the same kind of earning power that her husband had. And if he hadn't had a solid life insurance policy, she would have been, she and their kids would have been in a difficult position. They may not have been able to pay their mortgage. They may not have been able to pay their bills. And even if they had, they still would have been financially stressed. And most of us at some point in time in our life have been financially stressed. And it's hard. It creates all kinds of difficulties. It can cascade into your relationships with people. It's not fun, right? But because he planned ahead and he set that there for his family, they were able to stay on their feet. And yes, it's a terrible thing. They had to grieve their loss. I'm sure it was awful, but they weren't dealing with that bereavement and then staring down the barrel of financial catastrophe. And that's a big deal.
Huge.
I've also seen where older folks, have these policies are called final expense policies. They're smaller, typically $10,000 or $15,000 maybe, and they're sold specifically to folks over a certain age, basically to help cover burial expenses. Burial to die in this country is expensive.
Yes, it is.
I don't even know what it is now. Back when last time I read, it was almost $10,000 on the low end to get buried, and a lot of people don't think about that. I've literally had people say, well, I'm just going to have my family chuck me in the ground. Well, I mean, that's fine, but unfortunately, it's illegal on your own land in a lot of cases anymore. So, leaving that expense, $10,000, $15,000 to your survivors, most people, I think, when they think about it, don't want to do that. So having a discussion with a good, ethical, licensed agent about, what options are out there, what exists, what you might be able to afford, what the benefits are, because there's actually living benefits that can be derived from life insurance. There's a lot of things that a good agent can talk to you about, And I would just say, anybody watching this, if you don't have life insurance, or even if you do have life insurance and you don't know exactly how it works or how much you're covered for or how it could benefit you and your family, talk to your agent, find an agent, and have an honest discussion with them. Because, like I said, my mom passed away several years ago. She had life insurance, and I was a beneficiary of some of that, and it helped me actually invest in my business. You know, it helped me do some things in my life that I want to do. It had a lasting benefit to me personally. My mom did that for me, and that's a big deal.
Huge deal.
That,
Huge deal. Well, even in the last few years, you mentioned how expensive it is, what burial costs are. A lot of people have moved to not having services and doing cremation. But even cremation is not cheap. I mean, that's still 4 or 5 grand right there.
yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Question for you: what's the difference between, and this is something that I've never really understood clearly, but what's the difference between term life and whole life insurance?
Well, two main differences. So term life, it goes for a term and a term of time. So, it could be, well, I guess technically any amount of time, but typically you see term life policies go between 5 and 30 years. The advantage of a term life policy, especially maybe for younger folks who are starting out, who maybe don't have a lot of cash, is you can get typically a very high death benefit. You can get hundreds of thousands of dollars of death benefit for relatively little. And you can get that rate locked. Let's say if you're a 25-year-old man, in good health, non-smoker, yada, yada, yada. You can get really inexpensive life insurance that will cover you and your family for X number of years, call it 30 years. And, that could do something like, cover the cost of your mortgage if something happens. That could cover maybe student debts that you might have outstanding. That could cover, debt's a big deal in this country. Everybody's in debt. If you're not in debt, you probably are, you just don't know it. And that's something that a good life insurance agent they're gonna have a frank discussion with you. I mean, honestly, they're gonna ask you, hey, what's your outstanding debt? What are your assets? What do you own that, might be at risk if something were to happen to you and your income? You know, it's not because we're being nosy, okay? It's our job to find out how we can protect you and your family. And so, yeah, term life, think of it this way, you know, you get your rate set for X number of years, and at the end of that, the policy goes away, and you can get a new policy, but it's going to be rated for your new age, health conditions, all that kind of stuff. Whole life policy is permanent life insurance until you die, as long as you pay the premium. So if you get a whole life policy for $100,000 when you're 25 years old, I say 25 because that's the last time I feel like I was in good shape. Um,
Me too.
but as long as you pay the premium on that, if you live to be, 100 years old, that insurance is going to be there. And whole life insurance, a lot of it does have some living benefits. It typically accrues cash value over time because the way insurance companies make money on life insurance is they take the premium, and part of that goes to, we call it keeping the policy alive. Basically, it goes to paying the administrative costs of the policy. And then most of it goes into, the stock market or other types of investments. And I'm telling you, the insurance companies have been around for a long time. They don't typically lose. All right. Most of those policies are going to actually accrue cash value at a higher rate than what you could get in a bank deposit. So you could put, I don't know, $1,000 a year in a bank, savings account. Inflation is going to eat that. You're going to lose that eventually. Put the same amount of money into a good whole life policy, the cash value over time is typically going to outpace inflation. Now, I don't know, last few years have been pretty crazy. I'm not sure how that's working on the short term, but you know, long term, if you're looking at things on a long term, looking ahead basis, it's a really simple way to protect your family from, again, the cost associated with you passing away, lost income, because you're going to get that death benefit regardless. But I was thinking one of my whole life policies, I looked at the cash value the other day, and I've got over $2,000 of accrued cash value that I can actually pull out. I could get a loan against it, or I could just pull it out and use it because it's my money, and that would not affect my death benefit. or anything like that. So it's a great product. It's a great way to protect your family. It's a simple way to, try to make your money work for you a little bit. And yeah, they're both good policies. Whole life policies are more expensive overall than term policies, but you get that locked rate your entire life as long as you pay the premium.
Hmm. So when making what as far as deciding between term and whole life, what do you recommend people consider?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like I said, maybe, use an example, a young couple with a couple of kids, maybe they don't have a whole lot of disposable income, but want to be protected. So let's say the man is the primary breadwinner and maybe the mom, you know, would also like to have some protection for the kids in case something happens. So you could get maybe a term life policy for both of them if they're young and good health for very little money per month for the premium for a 30-year term. Hopefully that's going to protect them and their family, through the time their kids are growing up, through them paying off their mortgage, through sending their kids to school, all of those expenses that are expected, when you're growing a family. And you can have that protection, that large death benefit, for, again, relatively little per month. On the other hand, if they wanted to, try to maybe consider it almost as like an investment, getting a whole life policy, even a small whole life policy to supplement the term policy would be a great investment, because at some point, assuming they survive to the end of the term, that term policy is going to terminate. They're going to be older. They're probably going to have had some kind of medical issues. But if they still have that whole life policy, they're going to be paying the same rate as they were when they were young and in good health, because that rate's locked. As long as that policy, is existent and being paid for, that rate's locked. It's not going to change. It doesn't matter what happens. That's why I always tell people it's better to get life insurance when you're young, because over time you're going to pay a lot less for it. Like, I got my first life insurance policy when I was 30 years old. I wish I had done it 10 years before, because I could have gotten more coverage and paid a lot less for it. Of course, I didn't have any money when I was 20 years old.
Right.
So it's a chicken and the egg thing. But again, it's something you can talk to an agent about. A good agent, an experienced agent, is going to be able to kind of explain things, what the options might be, what the market is looking like. If they're an agent like me who works with multiple companies, they can check different markets. But even a captive agent, like a State Farm agent or something like that, and I say State Farm because that's where I started my career, they can talk to you about their products. And again, talking to a professional and getting to know what these things are and how they work and how they can benefit you, can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Well, I know a guy that I
Okay.
do. I know a guy. So any of our listeners, if you don't have life insurance or you need to get more life insurance, Timothy's the man. Give him a call.
Yeah, give me a shout. Like I said, I'll talk about it all day long. You'll get sick of hearing it.
Very good. Well, Tim, love it. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Well, thank you. Talk to you then.
All right, man. Have a good one.
See you.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Walters Agency Podcast. Ready to find the right coverage for your home, business, or family? Call or text 423-417-2070 for a free 20-minute consultation. Until next time, stay covered, stay protected, and keep winning with the Walters Agency.